Let us welcome a new day to learn more and expand our knowledge. I am Mark A. Barayoga, and today we are going to talk about how to write the recommendations, which is part of the Chapter 5 in a research, which is the summary, conclusions, or recommendations. In the past meetings, some reporters have already discussed how to write the summary and the conclusions. The focus of our lesson for today is only how to write recommendations for your research. But first, we must understand what recommendation is. The recommendations are anchored on the conclusion, and the conclusions are anchored on the summary of findings. The recommendations should be lifted from the conclusions of the study. So you may say in the introductory statement, based on the findings and conclusions presented, the following recommendations are suggested. And then you specify all of your recommendations. A recommendatory, not a demanding tone should be used in writing the recommendation. There are two elements required in presenting the recommendations. Number 1, the action being recommended, and number 2, the entity, institution, organization, or individual tasked to implement the recommendation. The first one talks about what are the things that should be done with regards to your research, and the second one talks about who should do it. Let us have an example of a recommendation. So first is the title, recommendations, then a short introductory statement, and then you present your recommendations. We can see that the words used here to recommend an action is should, and the action is specifically, clearly, and concisely presented what type of action should be done and who should implement the action being recommended. Guidelines in writing the recommendations. Recommendations should aim to solve or help solve problems discovered in the investigation. For example, in the conclusion of your research, it was found out that there is a lack of school equipment. Then your recommendation will be to acquire school equipment. And the same thing follows for whatever is the problem discovered, then the action needed to address the problem will be written in the recommendation. Number 2, no recommendations should be made for a problem or a matter that has not been discovered or discussed in the study. This is actually clear when we set out our scope and the limitations. There may also be recommendations for the continuance of a good practice or a system, or even recommendations for its improvements. Recommendations should aim for the ideal, but they must be feasible, practical, and attainable. Recommendations should be addressed to the person, entities, agencies, or offices who or which are in a position to implement them. For example, should you address it to the teachers, human resource, entrepreneurs, etc.? There should be a recommendations for further research on the same topic in other places to verify, amplify, or negate the findings of the study. So this will be addressed to the future researchers. If your research will be used as a related literature, they may look into your recommendations to further verify, amplify, or maybe negate your findings. So that is the end of our lesson for today. I hope this will be helpful in writing your research, and I wish the best of luck. Stay safe, and God bless.
Took a morning ride to the place where you and I were supposed to meet. The city owns the echo on, my thoughts are spinning on and on my head, it seems. They lead me back to you. I keep coming back to you. Took a morning ride, found a place up in my mind no one else can see.